Hello, guys and gals. Sorry, I got momentarily distracted there. This is the Fables of Leonardo da Vinci, the book that I have been reading, but I decided to actually read the introduction, and it's an introduction by Margaret Meeks. And it's kind of long, but it's really, really insightful, and I decided to actually read it on camera. I probably should have done this on day one, but if I ever put these in a playlist, I'll probably put this one first. Anyways, it says introduction, and we're going to look at Leonardo da Vinci's face here. These are the stories of a great storyteller who liked nothing better than to put what he thought about things into the form of fables and legends. A fable is usually very short, and the author seems to say to his listener or his reader, "You'll see what I mean if I put it this way." And then he explains a complicated idea with an easily rememberable example. Most people know Aesop's fables, the lion and the rat, the fox and the grapes. For example, certainly Leonardo did, and he used them as his models because they seemed a good way to please people and to instruct them. He knew that if his readers were to learn the lesson of the story, he had to make the point and well, just as you tell a joke in terms which they can associate with their everyday lives. Legends are stories people have known for a long time and are handed down through many generations. While the outline and plot usually remain the same, the person who tells them changes the details to fit the situation in which he finds himself. There is less need to make them short, as the pleasure comes from the way in which the new version is told. Leonardo used these two well-known forms to show a number of things in a new light. Leonardo was a great genius whose extraordinary gifts enabled him to tackle almost everything that men could do. Excuse me. My throat is a little dry. I've been reading books all afternoon, on camera and out loud. He lived in Italy in the 15th century, 1452 to 1519, a time thronged with new ideas and discoveries. His many distinguished and powerful contemporaries, some of whom commissioned work from him, included Lorenzo de Medici. I'll put that on camera. I'm probably not pronouncing it. Medici, I believe. Ludovico Forza, Duke of Milan, and Francis I, the King of France. He was an artist, a sculptor, a musician, a stage designer, as well as an engineer who made canals. We know, okay, we're going to look at these pictures after we read this, from his notebooks that he explored the workings of the human body, studied rocks and fossils, and was fascinated all his life by the movement of water and the flight of birds. His curiosity was insatiable, and he differed from his contemporaries in that he took nothing for granted and trusted only in what he had actually seen. In his drawings, he wanted to copy that abundant beauty of nature which he loved: animals, fish, birds, flowers, stones, grass, and trees, all of which occurred in these stories. He looked for the ideally beautiful. The portrait of the Mona Lisa is the most famous example, and contrasted such things with the ugliness and distortions that he saw around him. Above all, he was passionate about freedom. We are told that he bought caged birds in order to have the pleasure of setting them free. Such a man, so intense about life and so full of ideas, found it difficult to explain to his contemporaries how he felt. So he told them stories in which his observations of fig trees, cranes. Now we're going to look at these pictures real quick. The house where Leonardo was born, that's that right there. Right, this is Leonardo de Medici, also known as the Magnificent, Ludovico Forza, Duke of Milan, Francis I, King of France. Okay, so that is the first guy, that's the second guy, and then I guess that's the King of France. Okay, all right, the Castle of Clough, or Clos-Lucé, at Ambrose, where Leonardo spent the last years of his life. That's right there. Now we're going to continue on. Such a man so intense about life and so full of ideas, found it difficult to explain to his contemporaries how he felt, so he told them stories in which his observations of fig trees, cranes, grapes, lilies, and above all water are linked to his passions. Read the stories of the goldfinch, page 24, the flames, page 53, the razor, page 54. As you read, you will feel you come to know Leonardo, as he is concerned to make the listener look at things in his way, and you will recognize him as the eagle in the final story. Because Leonardo's mind was restless and searching, and his concerns were so like those of our day, we are sometimes surprised when he presents ideas which are more typical of his own period. Death was very near to people who lived where war and pestilence were common and violence could be seen every day in the streets. Leonardo was outspoken about the corruption of the courts and cities because he saw so much of it and contrasted it with the beauty of nature. But he was no sentimentalist. The animals are quite as ferocious as the stories as they are in real life. Sometimes the morals at the end of the tales seem a little far-fetched. Falsehood, like the mole, can live only if it remains hidden. But we must remember that these are not lessons for children only, but also for grown men who prided themselves on their worldly wisdom. They had probably never before heard greed described in terms of the clematis, page 67, and that made the lesson all the more memorable. All his life and in all his work, Leonardo aimed at perfection and often saw faults in things with which others were quite content. Even in the shortest fables, we feel we have been looked into by a searching eye, and we hear him say, "At last, very suddenly, there flashed forth a spark, which lit a magnificent fire with the power to do marvelous things." And that was by Margaret Meek. And we're going to look at this. This says, study of flight, which anticipated the modern helicopter. This says, a fantastic precursor to the modern tank, right here. Study of hydrodynamics in the shape of the hull and that of a fish. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. This is the bombardment of fragmented projectiles, in modern terms, shrapnel. Okay. Now, we are going to read the foreword also, and this is by Bruno Nardini, who interpreted all these. And we're going to look at this red page while I read this. Leonardo da Vinci was a fascinating debater, a polished orator, and a storyteller of originality and imagination. His fables spread like wildfire, and as always happens with oral tradition, many different versions grew up. Some looked for the sources of Leonardo's stories in folk tales, but with a few exceptions, they were his own. Leonardo used small notebooks, which were collected by later scholars. He wrote them in a succinct, almost telegraphic style, using a strange mirror writing, which went from right to left. The legend of the goldfinch, which prefers to kill its children rather than see them imprisoned for life, still exists as a folk tale in the Tuscan countryside, but no one now remembers its illustrious origin. In fact, Leonardo is not generally remembered as a storyteller. Almost 5 centuries have passed since Leonardo lived, and all that remains of the fables, which once circulated in every court and public place in Italy and France, are a few Tuscan, Lombard, and French folk tales, and the brief notes in Leonardo's manuscripts. That's by Bruno Nardini. And then the book starts. I should have read this first, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to get that out of the way. I thought that was probably going to be a long read, and I just wanted to get to the fables. But this is basically the Tales of Leonardo. This is the foreword and the introduction to the book, which probably should have come first. Anyways, if you like this, I'll be continuing the series. But until then, if you want to support me in any way, all the information is in the description below. And I make these videos because I enjoy making them. And if you enjoy them, then good. Make sure that you like and you subscribe, and check my channel for other content. Also, make sure you ring the bell so you know when I upload. That being said, I will be ending the video. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.